Hey everybody. All right, we have a very serious episode of Cooper Stuff today. As you know, last week we talked about the Afghanistan withdrawal. I was very upset last week, but I was trying really hard to be gracious and generous because when we're upset, we say really extreme things. They can be taken out of context. You try to see other people's point of view. I'm not being gracious and generous today. Just like probably most all of you, I am fired up about what is happening in Afghanistan. This has been a hard week, harder than even last week. It feels like that every week, doesn't it? Every week gets harder than the week before. I cannot believe what is going on in Afghanistan. As you know, this week, we lost 13 of our American military folks, young, brave, young men and women, heroes. As you know, I care deeply about military people, and I cannot believe that this is going on. It's so incompetent and so angering when you're watching it. The more you find out about it, the more angering it is. And it is not going to get better unless we do something about it, unless we get angry about it. Things are going to get a lot worse, if you ask me, in a lot of different ways, because we have no vision from our leadership. We have no leadership. We have no vision. And part of that is because our leaders do not think that we have any moral authority in America. I think a lot of Christians think that too. This isn't just going to be a political talk today. It's not going to be a partisan talk today. This is going to be about the philosophy of why we don't have any moral authority. That has massive ramifications for the church, by the way. Massive ramifications for the church. If you've noticed, the Christian woke also don't think we have any moral authority. That's going to have a huge ramification for freedom in this country. I'm upset about these young men and women that at my age, they look like kids to me, to be honest. 19 and 20-year-old, beautiful young people that are trained and could do something about it if our leadership class was better, which they are not. They're failing. It's not just incompetence. I believe that it is also immoral, and we're going to talk about it today. Very serious episode, but we're going to jump into it, and I'm not in a generous mood, so I hope that you're listening today. Let's have a real talk, Cooper stuff. Cooper stuff! Hey guys, welcome to Cooper stuff. All right, I've got some notes that I want to talk about. There are some important things that I want to say that I think matter in terms of the issue of moral authority. But we're going to be a little bit about philosophy with that. Why you believe you have moral authority and what happens if we don't, right? But before I do that and look at these notes, I mean, it's not that I just want to riff, all right? But I do just kind of want to talk from my heart. It's a little bit raw, but I'm mad just like all of you are, all right? And I don't want to get here and just start going off because everybody's going off. You don't need to hear it from me as well. But here we are anyway, and I want to go off. I'm really mad about this. You see these pictures of these service members. I mean, once you're my age, not that I'm super old, just saying. When you're my age, you see these pictures of these 19, 20, 21-year-old. They're not kids. I don't mean disrespectful, but they're young. They look like kids to me. My son is learning to drive. He's 16 years old, doesn't yet know how to drive a car. And in 3 years, he could have been one of those kids. I can't believe, I just can't believe the incredible, it's beyond incompetence. Incompetence isn't even the right word because it's so far beyond incompetence. There are other things here that are really problematic. And you've just got these young people, these men and women, and they're so brave. And I respect them so much. I think that people that serve our country are heroes. We say things like that, and I know sometimes they might sound trite or they may sound overused. I mean it. I believe that they're heroes. Now, some of the woke these days hear somebody like me say I think they're heroes, and they think that we're Christian nationalists. You know what? Don't listen to those people. They don't even know what Christian nationalism is. They don't define it right. And once you're defining it as, well, basically anybody that thinks our military people are heroes, they don't know what they're talking about. We just need to ignore these people. I think that they've not understood what America is. They've not understood why we are a great country. They're not understanding what civil government is supposed to be. And it just really annoys me. So don't listen to those people. These military people that put their lives on the line. You know how frustrating it would be to put your life on the line when the people above you are not allowing you to do what you need to do. I said it last week. They're so weak. So you're looking here. Let's just start over. Sorry, I got to start over. I'm getting all worked up. All right. The incompetence for this mission is incredible. One of the things I don't love in politics is when every single bad thing that happens in America gets blamed on a president. All right. I don't love that because that's overly simplistic. There's a lot of different things that happen. Sure, it happened under their watch. All right. But there's a lot of levers of power besides just the president of the United States. But in this situation, it's warranted. This is on the president. The more we keep finding out about this mission, are you with me on this? The more you find out about the mission, the more jaw-droppingly stupid it is. We find out that we actually did have good intelligence. We find out that we did have the information. We find out that a lot of people did say, hey, this is a really bad idea. We're finding out all of these things, and what it comes down to really is on the president. It's an incredible failure. I believe that it's not just a failure of incompetence. I do think there is some immorality with this as well. You know that you can make immoral judgments. You know that, right? It's not just like, well, they tried. It's a little hard to know. Could be this, could be this. There are judgments that you can make that are they're negligent, and sometimes they're even worse than negligent. Sometimes they are immoral, all right? So we can talk about that here. So one of the military commanders, I've been pretty hard on the military commanders. I think a lot of them are just woke. Honestly, I think a lot of them have just bought into the same, what I would view as immorality about their view of what America is and what she should be and the greatness of America, why we are necessary in the world. I think a lot of them have kind of bought into that. But I do got to say that when I was watching one of them this week, well, he was saying, well, what I was told was that, okay, you're going to have 800 troops, so you got to decide, are you going to defend the Bagram Air Base, or are you going to go, after the embassy? And he said, well, if it's only 800 troops, I guess only 800 troops. So we're going to evacuate troops before citizens and before, Afghans that have helped us with interpreters and this, that, and the other, like people that have put their lives on the line. We're going to send troops out before then, before the equipment. So we give up the base, right? Along with that, which I haven't quite understood, is this thousands of prisoners, like ISIS prisoners, like terrorists. So now all of a sudden people that we had imprisoned for ISIS or Al-Qaeda and what have you, terrorists, are now just set free. And if you watch the video, as we said last week, of the air base that we are attempting to command, the Kabul airport, as you see it, and I'm sure you've all seen it, it's like that little strip of land, right? That little strip of land where thousands of people are just funneled into, and people can't get up into the gates, right? You've seen that. Well, I'm just a dumb singer in a rock band. I don't know anything about military. I don't know anything about running government. I know nothing about running anything except for a kick butt rock and roll show. That's all that I can run, okay? I don't know anything about anything else. But I remember reading that there's a lot of suicide bombers. And it's the first thing that I think. I'm looking at this little runway with our soldiers out there thinking, why don't they let them go on the offense? We talked about it last week. Why are we being so weak? Why are we going on the offense instead of putting our young men and women right there for anybody to do anything they want to do? It's beyond incompetence. That kind of weakness is a dereliction of duty. That kind of weakness is like, okay, you're borderlining like You are on the borderline here of inviting something bad to happen. Everybody should know that. Now you're getting beyond the incompetence issue, right? I think that it was Ben Shapiro that said, somebody said it well, that I don't know, he's like, I don't know if for the president, is this incompetence, like mental incompetence, or is this moral incompetence? I thought that was a pretty good way to say it. I don't like all the conjecture about the mental stuff. I don't know. It certainly is moral incompetence. Everybody knows watching that thing. I'm amazed it didn't happen earlier. I want to show you this viral clip that you may have seen already. And this is from, I forget the guy's name. He was a Navy SEAL, an ex-Navy SEAL. It went viral. You probably saw it, but I'll show it to you anyway. Jocko Willink, he released this thing basically saying, if I was the president, here's what I would say. And it's long. It's about 3 minutes. I'm going to play the whole thing because I just think it's absolutely awesome. If you've already seen it, sorry, you got to watch it again. Check this out.
Good evening. I wanted to give you an update on the current situation in Afghanistan. As you know, we were set to leave Afghanistan this month, and as we began the final drawdown, I made some critical errors. Namely, I underestimated the strength of the Taliban, and I overestimated the strength and capability of the friendly Afghan forces. This was my fault. And due to my mistake, the Taliban has taken control of Afghanistan. There are reports now that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are working alongside them. Unfortunately, there are tens of thousands of Americans on the ground there, as well as friends and allies of America on the ground. And these people, Americans and our allies, are all stranded. And that is my fault. But they will not be stranded for long. In the next 48 hours, America will be in control of most major airports in Afghanistan. Any resistance we meet from the Taliban or otherwise when we seize these airports will be destroyed completely and without mercy. From those airports, we will conduct rapid strike rescue missions until we have recovered and evacuated all our citizens, allies, and friends. Any person that interferes with these operations will be killed. We will also recover or destroy all aircraft, vehicles, weapons, and sensitive equipment that we left behind. Any person utilizing, guarding, or located in close proximity to these weapons or equipment will be killed. Once we have evacuated all friendly personnel and recovered or destroyed the weapons and equipment left behind, we will depart Afghanistan. But we will continue to monitor everything that happens in Afghanistan through our ground and airborne surveillance equipment. Terrorist training camps or activity will be targeted and destroyed. Gross violations of human rights will be stopped through overwhelming force. And any group in Afghanistan fighting for freedom, liberty, and basic human rights will be supported through special operations forces and ruthless precision air power. We will continue that dedicated support until the enemy is no longer a threat to humanity or to the good people of Afghanistan. May God bless America, and may God have mercy on the souls of our enemy, because we will not. That is all.
So there you have it. Basically, he's saying a lot of what I attempted to say last week, just a whole lot better. We're just projecting weakness. He said something in the end there that we're going to get back to in a little while, which is the hey, if we see anybody in our way, we're coming to rain down. I don't remember how you say it. We're going to rain down, heaven's fury. What I really mean is hell's fury. We're going to rain down fury upon our enemies to do what needs to be done. We're going to talk about that in a little while, because people have just become increasingly more uncomfortable with that kind of talk. A lot of woke Christians completely uncomfortable with that kind of talk. Let me ask you this. In woke Christianity Twitter, how many woke Christian Twitter people have been talking about Afghanistan? See, I think that a lot of the woke Christian crowd has completely lost the framework for apologetics, for justice, civil government. I really don't think that they understand. I honestly think that they don't really understand why America is good. But I think the reason they haven't understood that is because they've lost their framework for apologetics, for justice, that sort of thing. What it is that we even believe about humanity. We talked about some of that last week. I think they've completely lost it. One of the things I didn't even say yet, I think there's over 100 innocent people that died in that bombing too. I think I got so worked up I didn't even say what happened, because I assume everybody knows. So as I already told you, there's this little strip of land where everybody's trying to get through. They're like these little, people, American citizens, or people that would have worked for us, trying to come up to get let through, not being allowed to get through, as we reported last week, by the Taliban. There were beatings. There were American citizens being beaten. There were Afghan people who had worked with America that were supposed to be let through that were beaten. We've seen that. The Taliban have been going door to door, as we reported last week, right? From I can't remember the Christian news source, but it was reported on the Daily Wire, finding out who had Bible apps on their phones, stealing young girls. This stuff is so dark, you guys. We're talking about actual sex slavery. You're talking about actual things that we can't even imagine in America, all right? Sex slavery and rape and murder and beheading. We talked about that last week. And a suicide bomber got through, apparently, the big explosion, and then there were other people there that had automatic weapons and began shooting. That's how it happened. Well, over 100, at least, innocent Afghan people also were killed in that. Children. It's horrific. I'm not going to play the video, but the video's out there of the aftermath of it. I mean, it looks like you're walking through hell. It's just bodies, body parts, blood. I mean, it looks like Saving Private Ryan, all right? It looks like a horror film. You can see the video, children, which is why you saw those famous videos, which you've probably seen, of Afghan women sending their babies over the barbed wire fences to the American soldiers. You seen that video? The American soldiers reaching down, grabbing babies, bringing them up. Save my baby, whatever it takes. And you want to get an idea of how bad it is to live there. The day after the bombing, all the Afghan people that are still alive come back and get into the tunnel again. This is how bad they want to get out of there. We haven't talked about the fact that we left, there's like I can't remember how many billions of dollars of equipment, of weapons, helicopters. So all they got to do is get the weapons, get the technology, or the tanks, or the choppers, whatever, and you just figure out the technology, and now all of our enemies have that technology too. So we're just going to take our troops out, and who cares about all the other stuff? This is weakness beyond incompetence. This is like, what is actually happening here? It's pretty bad stuff, all right? So they're calling it the single deadliest day for our service members in Afghanistan in over a decade, all right? In over 10 years, we haven't lost this many of our American service members, all right? 10 years in Afghanistan, the single deadliest day. We are projecting weakness. That's basically what that ex-Navy SEAL just said there. That's the way that you encourage your enemies to attack you. You project weakness. All week long we've been hearing, well, the Taliban has control of the country. We can't do anything about it. If we're not out by this date, they said there's going to be consequences, and we're working with them. What is this? What is this? When you project weakness, you are inviting enemies. Now, I know some people are still going, okay, this is a Christian podcast. What does this have to do with Christianity? We're getting there. We're getting there. The biggest shock to me, I don't know if it's because I'm a moron. It might be because I'm a moron. The biggest shock to me was as the week went. So I showed you that ex-Navy SEAL video, right? And he's the one saying, yeah, you tell the Taliban, we're the ones in control here until we decide to leave, this and the other, right? So I don't think that I'm the only moron. I don't think people knew this. If you knew it, then it's just because I'm uninformed and not very smart. Were you as shocked as I was? Throughout the week, I kept hearing language coming from the presidency and the people surrounding the president of we're working with our Afghan partners and this and this. And it finally dawned on me. I was like, when they say we're working with Afghan partners, I think what they're saying is that we are working with the Taliban, meaning that the Taliban is the one allowing American citizens to get through almost like a checkpoint, almost like a checkpoint. This is the Taliban. Remember the Taliban, the terrorist who harbored Osama bin Laden and, people like that. It sounds to me like what they're saying is that they are in charge of protecting the airport. And lo and behold, that is what happened. That's the most shocking thing of the week. I could not wrap my head. And I did a bunch of research for it so I don't come on Cooper stuff and say something that's not true, because it seems impossible to be true, yet it is. So the Taliban are working as a checkpoint for people to go through in order to be funneled all the way down to our American troops. We're still not being aggressive. We're still not going out and finding our people. We're not running the checkpoints. The Taliban is running the checkpoints. The same Taliban is what we said last week that was beating American citizens, beating Afghan people who worked with us, beating women. Did you see the one where the report that a woman was beaten because she would not cook a meal for Taliban soldiers? Those same people, those are the ones that are protecting our troops. The most shocking thing of all of it, I got to find this report and read it to you. Most shocking thing of all of it to me was when we found out, this is just unbelievable. I'll just read it here. I think this was originally on Politico. I'm going to read the Daily Wire one. Listen to this, you guys. The Biden administration gave the Taliban a list of American citizens, green card holders, and Afghan allies that needed to get into the airport. How do you like that? Our government gave a list of American citizens, green card holders, and Afghan allies that need to get to the airport. This is the same Taliban. I know I'm just repeating myself. This is what I do when I get shocked. I repeat myself over and over. The same Taliban, the one that's going around finding out who's Christians and who's been working with, the government and stealing women. Sorry, I say women. I mean, young girls. That same Taliban, we're saying, here's the list of the citizens and you can help bring them in. How do you think that's going to work? When we are absolutely dedicated to leave, we're leaving on that Tuesday or whatever the date is. We're leaving. We are gone. We're completely done. In other words, there's no incentive for them to work with us on this. What's going to happen if they don't? What's going to happen if they don't? After the amazing display of weakness that we had projected, that we don't want any conflict, we don't want to send any more soldiers. In fact, we're going to take our soldiers out first and then say, hey, here's the list you have. What do you think happens to these people if they are not on planes afterwards? A lot of people are calling it basically a kill list. This is just remarkable to me. The Biden, I'll read this from Daily Wire. The Biden administration reportedly gave the Taliban a list of the names of United States citizens, green card holders, and other Afghan allies that needed to be allowed into the airport so they could be evacuated, a decision that sparked widespread outrage from officials and critics. The move, detailed to Politico by 3 U.S. and congressional officials, was designed to expedite the evacuation of tens of thousands of people from Afghanistan as chaos erupted in Afghanistan's capital city last week after the Taliban seized control of the country, Politico reported. But the decision to provide specific names to the Taliban, which has a history of brutally murdering Afghans who collaborated with the U.S. and other coalition forces during the conflict, has angered lawmakers and military officials. A Pentagon official told Politico that the Biden administration effectively put all those Afghans on a kill list. It's just appalling and shocking and makes you feel unclean, the official added. Yeah, I think unclean is an understatement, but true. Online, journalists, critics, and politicians expressed fury over the decision, and there's just a whole bunch of different people. I won't read what they said. I did want to read. I want to read one from Matt Visor. This is a tweet. Exchange from July 8, 2021. Question. Do you trust the Taliban, Mr. President? Do you trust the Taliban, sir? The President. Is that a serious question? Question. It is absolutely a serious question. Do you trust the Taliban? That was, back then. And everybody kind of probably already knows how that turns out. No, we don't trust the Taliban, but we will give them a list of people they need to let through, even though we're leaving and we're not going to do anything about it if they don't. This is weakness beyond anything. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. So I am angry, but I'm also stunned, just as you are. Representative Vicky Hartzler says the Taliban is going door to door and searching for our Afghan allies. The Biden administration gave them a list of names. There you go. They're going door to door looking for a list of allies. We're like, hey, we'll just go ahead and give that to you and see how that works out. One of the other infuriating things about this is that when the administration, so when the president came out or when Jen Psaki came out and has been talking about what's happening, one of their press conferences, they have been sort of bragging about how well they are doing, how amazing these airlifts are in the midst of all of this stuff. Now, I get it. That's what politicians do. Left, right, and center. They all do it. They all have to spin. They all have to brag. But during this debacle, with all the horrific things happening, to be bragging about the amount of people you're getting out, here's the thing. You don't get to brag when you are the cause of the problem. All right. It's like starting a house fire, setting your own house on fire and bragging about how you got your wife out. Right. I got 5 kids. I went down, I set the whole house on fire and we did an amazing job. I got 3 of the kids out in record time. You don't get to brag about it, man. And this did not sit well with this woman. I'm going to play a little bit of this clip. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But this is a mom of one of the Marines that died during that suicide bombing. She called into a radio program. I'm going to play a little bit of that now.
Kathy, Colorado, you're on the Will Count Majority. Hello.
Hey, my son was one of the Marines that died yesterday. And to listen to that. Sorry, I'm on the radio.
No. Go
My
ahead.
son was one of the Marines that died yesterday. 20 years and 6 months old, getting ready to come home from freaking Jordan to be with his wife to watch the birth of his son. And that feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap just sent my son to die. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning to Marines at my door telling me my son was dead. So to have her on right before me and listen to that piece of crap talk about diplomatic crap with freaking Taliban terrorists who just freaking blew up my son and know nothing, to not say anything about, oh my God, I'm so sorry for the families.
That is an absolutely gut-wrenching call to listen to. Absolutely horrible. Would I feel the same way? Yes, I think I would feel the same way. Look, I want to bring a bunch of things together here to where I get into what I really want to talk about. This is really important, and it has implications for the way I believe that Christians that we should think about our country, that we should think about our role in the world, what it means if we don't have a role in the world. We're going back. Remember the ex-Navy SEAL that I played in the beginning, basically saying we're going to rain down, hellfire, this and the other. I said earlier, a lot of woke people are completely uncomfortable with that. A lot of Christian woke people are completely uncomfortable with that. I'm also going to bring in the fact that we are in the middle of a civil war in America. It's not a hot civil war, right? We're not talking about guns in the streets right now. We're not talking about, South versus the North or that sort of thing, or state versus state, some kind of new version of a hot civil war. But you could call it a civil Cold War if you wanted to. I've heard some people call it, right? All this is going to be baked into the same conversation here. Because like I said last year, what I think that is about, it is about people who want to preserve Americanism, and it's about people who are anti-Americanism in some certain kind of a way. Why can the ex-Navy SEAL say, here's what we're going to do? We're the superpower here. You're not going to dictate terms to us. We're going to dictate terms to you. Why do we do that? Is it just because we have the power to do so? Or is there something else behind it? See, in my view, America has always believed in moral authority. But now we have a leadership class that does not believe in the moral authority of America. Last week I said basically the wokeism ends up making you where you can't discern between something that is bad and something that is absolutely horrific. It can't discern between the two. The way I said it last week is that it can't discern between life-altering things and just like the human condition, meaning, we're all going to have to suffer. What I would say in the context of today's discussion, wokeness and what we see in our leadership class today, especially in leftism, in the anti-Americanism, cannot discern between an imperfect country and an absolutely horrific, murdering dictatorship that kills little girls because they went to school, because girls shouldn't learn, right? That rapes women, that goes around for child brides, which is basically a form of sex slavery for underage girls, all right? Things that we would never understand. Murders Christians. Murders Afghans who help Christians in any sort of a way. Murders other Afghans that just aren't as radically murderous as they are. You see? You have the Taliban and ISIS. Well, apparently ISIS is mad at the Taliban because Taliban's not really radical enough, but a lot of the Taliban are probably going to go over to ISIS because they really do believe, this and the other. What you have with wokeness is you can't discern between what's really bad and what is like America. We're imperfect, but we are trying to create a better union, right? But we are imperfect. Got lots of bad stuff, but we're not them. Well, what you have with leftists and even the woke Christians, a lot of woke Christians are completely not comfortable with the idea of American exceptionalism. I talked about it last year. Somebody commented, American exceptionalism is just arrogant to say. America was founded in colonialism, imperialism, white supremacy, the patriarchy, this and the blah, 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 oppression of this, oppression of this, oppression of indigenous people. America is not the moral authority. Well, my question for them would be is, do you think that we have moral authority over ISIS? Do you think we have moral authority over the Taliban? Do you see what I'm saying? We have a crisis of moral authority in this country, in our leadership class, and the president has this as well. You can't believe that you have moral authority when you believe that we are a systemically racist and oppressive and patriarchal culture and this and this and this. You can't believe that we have moral authority. Now, why does this matter for Christians? It should matter for Christians because Christians should have an understanding just in apologetics. Alone, this is basic. That we don't believe in some sort of natural law of justice that all humans are going to generally kind of agree on. We don't believe that. ISIS fighters And the Taliban, they believe that they are just. You understand that, right? They believe that it is just that if somebody steals, then you cut their hand off. They think that it is just if there's a young woman, I can take her as my bride at 13. I can bring her into sex slavery or whatever. They believe that it is just to cut the heads off of Christians. That is justice to them. There's this sort of like, well, we all kind of generally agree on stuff. No, we do not generally agree on stuff. And that makes America a form of liberty and freedom and justice to the world. So what happens if we decide that we're not going to be the voice of freedom to the world? If we are going to have a void, right? If we're not just void of moral authority, and we don't really know we don't know if that's right or if they're right. Well, what do you think happens? That void gets filled by tyrants, murderers, dictators. What do you think happens there? And this is our own fault. This is happening not just with the president, but the entire leftist woke movement. The whole movement is saturated with this. It's the same thing. Look, here's the deal. Let me give you an example. 6 months ago, I believe it was, our leaders of America were meeting with the leaders of the Chinese Communist Party, right? They're going to have a meeting. And all the conservatives were saying, hey, I really hope, since it's the first meeting, with the Biden administration officials and the Chinese Communist Party officials, I really hope they're going to bring up these incredible human rights abuses, because China, as you know, they've just enslaved an entire ethnic group of Uyghur Muslims. Over a million Uyghur Muslims in camps. And the reports coming out of these camps are absolutely brutal, of rape and sterilizing women and killing pregnant women's babies and sex slavery and just starvation, all the stuff that goes along with it. All the conservatives are saying, I really hope that the Biden administration is going to hold them accountable. What happens at the meeting? It gets brought up by the Biden administration, and what do the Chinese say? Do you remember this? What do the Chinese say? I mean, actually, it's obvious that they should have said this, but it's genius. If you're a part of the Chinese Communist Party, it's genius. What do they say? They look at the Americans, they say, how dare America moralize to us when America has state-sanctioned genocide against black people? How dare you moralize to us about our human rights abuses? You're the one that the state is sanctioning for the police to go around and hunt down black people to kill them. Well, it's pretty genius, because that's what the leftists have been saying. That's what Black Lives Matter has been saying. That's what a lot of the Biden administration officials have been saying. That's what defund the police is all about. Abolish the police is all about. Well, that's what we've been saying. Why is that? Because we cannot discriminate against an imperfect system that is disproportionately hurting blacks over whites, is disproportionately hurting. There may be a lot of reasons for why that is. As you already know, I don't like the systemic racism charge. I think that it's in a whole world of things that I don't like and I don't agree with. But it is disproportionately happening to blacks. And I would like to do something about that outside of that weird, that whole weird world about state-sanctioned violence. I don't believe that. But you're dealing with leftist and Marxist and the woke that will not discriminate between those two things. So the Chinese communists, well, they're committing genocide against the Uyghur Muslims, but America's committing genocide against blacks, which is not actually true. But you get the point, don't you? Why is that? We've completely lost our moral authority. Whereas we could just say, hey, it is disproportionate and we do need to do something about it and let's find a way to do it. We're not going that route. We're going the full America is systemically racist. It's white supremacist. Just not 3 months ago, the Biden administration said, remember under the FBI, the biggest terror threat in America is white supremacy. It's just completely ridiculous. They've gone so woke that they cannot discriminate between things that are imperfect but need to get better and actual horror that is going on in the world. Now, I said that in a much different way last week, and in a much kinder way, because I was trying very much to be gracious. But let's just say it like it is. And in fact, I was watching this just a couple of days ago. Greg Gutfeld on the 5 kind of summed up some of what I also said last week about this, about wokeness is weakness. I'm not saying the whole reason this Afghanistan thing happened was because of wokeness, but I am saying that it is playing in to weakness, to this weakness, and because it is not understanding human nature as it actually is, which means it's sort of peddling lies. I'm going to show you this clip from Greg Gutfeld.
What does it tell you in a bigger picture is that this pitiful woke embrace by the Democrats have destroyed their party. You can't lead a country if you believe the country is racist, is guilty of the original sin of racism. You can't lead a country if you abdicate the responsibilities of the survival of a government, which is immigration and law enforcement. It's all connected. The abdication of responsibility during the riots, the denigration of the police, the conflation of the immigration process to racism leads to a feeble foreign policy, a foreign policy in which only a feeble response is the right one because you do not have the moral authority to actually exercise the right choices.
Look, some people might say, why does this matter at all for Christianity? John, you just sound like a political commentator. You just sound like some America, go America, Team America guy. Why does this matter for Christianity? It very much matters for Christianity because the juice, when I say the juice, what I mean is the heat, all right? The excitement happening in Christianity now on social media and on Twitter and this and the other is all of the woke stuff. It's the woke Christian movement. That is where the new juice is, all right? And it is the woke Christian movement that would hear me talking like this and say that I am a Christian nationalist, which I am not. They are so given to social justice that they cannot discriminate, again, between the imperfect and actual horrors that happen when you remove, all right, when you remove Christianity out of politics, out of government. When you remove that, they can't discriminate between those two things about the horrors that are going to happen when that happens. That's the reason that this really matters. So they would say it's Christian nationalist for me to say, is America better than other countries? Heck yes, America is better than other countries. They say, oh, that's just Christian nationalism. You're responsible for January 6th. That's not Christian nationalism. Yes, we are better than other countries. Why? Because we believe in justice, not that we just made up in our minds, but historically we believed in justice that was built upon the law of God, right? There's a God of the system, as I always say. Yes, I think a country that does not find their justice built upon the law of God, I think we're better than that country. I'm not saying I'm born inherently a better person than someone born in any other country. No, but as a country, are our ideals better than that one? Well, I would say yes. If it's not based on the law of God, then yes, it is, because it's not true justice. And I don't know why woke Christians have completely missed that. It's like they just think that like justice, again, it's natural. We're all going to agree on it. If we could just have a conversation and we could all just get rational. Everybody be rational. I'm going to give you a chance. Here, Taliban, here's a list of Americans. If you would let them in, we're going to be gone in 2 days. That would be cool. And we know you're going to do it. No. So this actually very much does matter for Christianity. That's the reason that there are much larger issues when we're talking about politics. As a Christian, people are like, well, there's this, and it usually comes down to abortion or this or social justice. There's a lot going into this. And if you think that America is not a moral authority, then I would ask them, who do you think is? Right now in Canada, there's a pastor, I don't know if you saw that pastor who's from Poland that was freaking out on the cops about 5 months ago, saying, no, I'm not going to shut down my church. Got arrested for holding outdoor church services. Outdoor church services, got arrested, facing 4 years in prison. In America, we just let people out of prison now. We've let people out of prison now that were in prison for actual like hard crimes. I'm not talking about like shoplifting. We basically let everybody out that does that now. Actually hard crimes, been let out of prison, and then they've gone and killed someone else. We let those people out. Canada's imprisoning a preacher for holding outdoor services for 4 years. Well, who are you to say that you're better than Canada? Yeah, we're better than Canada. I feel good about that. I think we're better than the Taliban. I think we're better than the Chinese Communist Party, who actually wants to commit genocide. Not the fake kind of genocide that they say we're committing in America. Actual human rights abuses. Yeah, I think we're better than that. And I think that if Christians don't understand that there is something really large at play here, and you cannot equate, people would always freak out about Trump's tweets, all right? I'm not saying I like Trump's tweets, didn't like his tweets, didn't like his messaging, his brashness, said a bunch of really rude things, his language was terrible. I hear you. Do I think that is going to be as harmful and consequential on the earth as a president that does not believe in the vision of Americanism and that we are a good country that exports freedom and justice to the world? I don't think those consequences are anything. They are nothing alike. One of those things is going to lead to more terror. I believe that it's going to. I want to end with showing you this clip from Bill Maher, who I've played before. As you know, Bill Maher is a liberal, and he is a passionate hater of Christianity. This guy is an atheist, does not like Christianity, thinks it's ridiculous, makes fun of Christians all the time, makes fun of conservatives all the time, but he has had enough of this woke thing, and he keeps saying stuff that I absolutely agree with. I'll show you this clip, and then we'll end.
Perspective about the stuff we howl about here. I'm sorry your professor said something you didn't like. That won't be a problem with the Taliban because you're not allowed to go to school. In Saudi Arabia, grown women can be jailed for doing the kind of things we think of as routine without the permission of a male guardian. China rounds you up if you're the wrong religion and puts you in camps. More children in Burkina Faso work than are in school. Only 5% of Burundians have electricity. The homicide rate in Honduras is 8 times what it is here. The inflation rate in Venezuela is 2,719%. In North Korea, people starve to death. The only people who starve here are doing it for a role. And the only people who have no water live in California. If you think America is irredeemable, turn on the news or get a passport and a ticket on one of those sketchy airlines that puts its web address on the plane. There's a reason Afghan mothers are handing their babies to us. But that doesn't make us the bad guys. We're not the bad guys. Oppression is what we were trying to stop in Afghanistan. We failed, but any immigrant will tell you we've largely succeeded here, and yet the overriding thrust of current woke ideology is that America is rotten to the core, irredeemably racist from the moment it was founded, and so oppressive, sexist, and homophobic, we can't find a host for the Oscars or Jeopardy! Have you ever heard of honor killings? Public beheadings? Throwing gay men off of roofs? Arranged marriages to minors? State-sanctioned wife beating? Female genital mutilation? Marriage by capture? Because we have. What's the lesson of Afghanistan? Maybe it's that everyone from the giant dorm room that is the internet should take a good look at what real oppression looks like. America may not be the country of your faculty lounge and Twitter dreams, but no one here tries to escape by hanging on to an airplane. No, we wait till we're inside the plane to fight. And that only because they cut off the beverage service.
Well, gotta say, I agree with all of that, 100% of that. This is really important. My final word to Christians, especially my woke Christian friends. I hope some of you are watching. My word to you would be this. I know that what woke Christians generally get worked up about are social justice issues, and they have a real problem that no, this country is not a good country. We are not doing good things because we're not giving enough money to single moms. We're not having enough money for childcare. We're oppressing people by not giving opportunities and this and this and this. I would just say this. There are things much, much more grave than those issues. As an aside, I would challenge that those issues are something the government's supposed to do, because that biblically, those are not things the government's supposed to do anyway. But let's just keep that off the table for now, because that's for a different podcast. That's a different episode. What I would say is, even if you believe those are things the government is supposed to do, it is not hard to conceive that if we do not have a larger picture of how we base what we base our justice on, the laws of God, right? Consistency with the Bible, consistency with the Ten Commandments and the ethical words of Jesus Christ. And if we don't build our justice upon that, then is it conceivable that we could be like Canada, imprisoning pastors for holding outdoor church services? Yeah, that's conceivable. Is it conceivable that we could be like Australia? Have you seen what's happening in Australia right now? Not letting people out of their houses. Don't talk to anybody if you see people out there. You've seen some of the riots that have happened. Police arresting people for protesting. It's absolutely brutal. We're talking about, if I remember correctly, I think they were having 3 deaths a day, 3 corona deaths a day, and they are keeping everyone in their houses. I just read a report that said in Australia, if you will get the vaccination, then you get a reward. You get 2 hours of outdoor time. That's like prison, right? You get 30 minutes of outdoor time every day, and then you go back to your cell. 2 hours of outdoor time. If what I read is correct, I read that in hot air. Don't know if that's correct. Haven't looked much into it. It's pretty believable when you watch this stuff that's happening. Are you saying that America could get like that? Yeah. Could America get like the Chinese Communist Party? Absolutely. And we may get like that when China overtakes us if we don't make a stand pretty soon. If Christians don't go, I see what's happening when you don't build your society on the laws of God. It will get hijacked, and it will become tyrannical and oppressive and be a land of injustice. That's what the Bible says. That's what the Bible teaches, I should say. Are you saying that could happen? Yeah, that can absolutely happen here. Anyway, that's what I want to talk about on Cooper stuff. We need leadership, we need vision, and we need to recapture our moral authority and Americanism. We're not perfect. We make a lot of mistakes. We got a long way to go. We could be doing more in lots of ways, and we need to try, but we need to realize that we do have moral authority and that we are a cause for freedom and liberty in the earth. So, thanks so much for watching. Peace.
Read the Bible.
Cooper stuff!